October 5th, 2022. It's a few weeks to the World Cup, the largest soccer event in the world, billed to be held in Qatar. The economies of world powers are crumbling. The world's economy is on the brink of an inevitable major collapse. Amid all these, the Russia-Ukraine war keeps raging in Eastern Europe. Global communities watch as Russia tries to bully Ukraine into submission. But as the world was busy watching one side, they forgot another. Members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, just ended a meeting, and they have a message for the rest of the world. This brief and direct message will probably send some of the world's top countries into an economic whirlpool. What was in the message? Keep watching to find out, and please give us a like and subscribe while you do. Following their meeting, OPEC announced a reduction in oil production by 2 million barrels. This number accounts for more than 2% of the total production cap of the entire world. It may not have been a bother, but for one important reason: economies are still struggling. OPEC originally consisted of Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, Nigeria, and other countries that produced oil. Together, they accounted for more than 50% of the world's oil supply. After Russia and a few others joined in 2016, they formed OPEC+, aiming to control oil demand and supply chains worldwide. The mission was to support each other in the face of crisis and provide international support whenever any oil-producing country needed it. So, it's basically a group of oil merchants trying to help each other in one way or the other. The central idea behind the formation of the OPEC+ group was to influence the oil market price even if one of the oil-producing countries couldn't supply oil. It's simple. Each time a country cannot meet the demands for oil, others can still meet this demand, but at a higher rate than before. This method allows OPEC members to influence the international market, and the ripple effect is felt worldwide. This idea makes it easy for oil-producing countries to influence the international political scene in their own way. Following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the benchmark for oil prices rose from $79 per barrel to about $110 per barrel. This accounts for the highest price of crude oil in the last 14 years. You might be wondering why oil would increase that much. Russia is the third largest producer of oil in the world. Since sanctions were placed on Russia after the invasion of Ukraine, the oil demand has exceeded the supply available. This gave other oil countries a reason to quickly increase the oil price, and it has remained so for a very long time. By September, the oil price decreased to $85 per barrel, and it seemed like a welcome development to anyone interested. Unfortunately, the oil price level is considered too low by oil producers who believe it may even crash further. So they needed to activate a plan to ensure they made more money. After all, a further decrease in oil price could mean they stand to lose much if the world eventually spiraled into recession in 2023, as indicators suggest. The decision to cut oil production by 2 million barrels per day seems to be in the best interest of the oil producers. Immediately after the announcement, the price of oil increased by 1.7% from $91 per barrel to $93 per barrel. This increase, little as it may seem, meant a lot of profit for OPEC and allowed them to continue to have a ripple effect on all economies of the world through oil price monopoly. This is the same reason why the United States of America is angry. One major reason behind the anger of the United States at the development is that there is already an energy crisis in Europe. With the decrease in oil production, there will be less supply of energy to major cities in Europe. In return, the government will have to take more loans by creating more bonds with decreased value. Interest rates on these bonds will lead to the depreciation of the currency. The circle then puts more pressure on the economy through less energy supply. Another reason is that citizens in the US and the UK already experience a high cost of living. With the recession now at 8% and climbing in the US, major concerns are that increasing oil prices will lead to a greater recession. OPEC, on the one hand, argues that it is trying to escape recession by increasing the price of oil, which will also contribute to recession. So the US is basically caught in an endless loop of economic regression. An increase in oil prices means that Russia stands to earn more money to finance its war against Ukraine. As such, the sanctions placed on Russia will have no long-lasting effect. Before the war started, Russia made an average of $50 million on energy supply to the rest of Europe. Immediately after the war started, this revenue almost doubled and rose to $90 million. This is because the demand and supply levels are not normal, and Russia is simply capitalizing on the opportunity the war has presented. The United States has now decided that there must be an end to this misery. It has decided to pass a bill called the NOPEC bill, which will enable it to take OPEC to court over weaponizing energy. The White House has accused Russia and members of OPEC of financing the war in Ukraine through the monopoly they hold on oil prices. But it remains to be seen if the leaders of the OPEC countries will abide by court orders, since they have diplomatic immunities in place. As it stands, this is not the first time the US has tried to stop OPEC from influencing economies through oil. But each time the matter is discussed, the Saudi Arabian government seems to win. Why? Saudi Arabia buys more weapons from the United States than any other country. In fact, it buys more weapons than the next 4 buyers combined. So, if the US were to clamp down on Saudi Arabia, the weapons companies would be at a great loss. In return, there will be less funding for political campaigns and less revenue generated for the country itself. Another angle to consider is that in 1945, Franklin Roosevelt and the Saudi king made a deal. Saudi Arabia would sell oil in dollars, and in return, the US will supply arms to Saudi Arabia. This influenced the dollar to become a foreign reserve symbol and gained the US $7 trillion in bonds. But if the Saudis decide to change the currency to maybe the Russian ruble, these bonds will be taken out of the US and into Russia. Technically, Saudi Arabia and the entire OPEC hold the US at ransom. However, things seem to have taken a different turn, as it's not just the US that wants the price of oil to fall. Most parts of Europe are desperate to see a fall in oil prices. Hence, the price cap strategy comes into play. The price cap strategy has been applied to Russian oil and may soon extend to other members of OPEC as a way of curbing oil price monopoly. How does this work? Shipping companies play very important roles in oil distribution across international waters. But unlike countries, they care little about risks and more about profit. For this reason, it's easy for Russian oil to be taken to, let's say, China and resold to Europe. The shipping companies only have to avoid the sanctioned routes and deliver oil wherever they want. China has been accused of selling Russian oil to Europe several times. The shipping companies can navigate any route to ensure the cargo is delivered, and for them, that is all that matters. There's one interesting part of shipping though: insurance. For any shipping company, insuring their vessels comes first. A single catastrophe with one vessel can cause a shipping company to lose everything it has ever worked for. So a single vessel may be worth, let's say, $1 million in insurance, even though the cargo is worth $10,000. The shipping companies depend on getting insurance for their vessel before venturing out. And guess what? The International Group of Protection and Indemnity Clubs, situated in London, is responsible for the insurance policies of more than 90% of international fleets. Get the picture? These groups exist in a country currently suffering from an energy crisis. Since they exist in the UK, they can be forced to revoke the insurance of shipping companies by order of their government. So, Europe has an idea. They will set a market cap price for oils all over the world. Any country within or outside Europe will have to adapt to the market cap of oils, thereby giving non-producers of oil leverage over OPEC. This means they have control over oil prices despite what OPEC may say. But how do they go about this? They force the insurance companies to deny insurance to any shipping fleet that transports expensive oil. The shipping companies will have no choice but to consider their safety over any shady deal, irrespective of the price. So, if a barrel of oil is agreeably set at one price, OPEC may not be able to change that for any reason. This price cap strategy is to allow Europe and the US to survive the coming winter. It is at this time that energy consumption is at its highest. If the price of oil continues to skyrocket, there is no doubt that many countries may be unable to deal with winter. Ultimately, the economic implication of this situation may be very critical. The oil war between the US, the UK, Saudi Arabia, and Russia may drag on for a very long time. While the economic impacts may be glaring, one must wonder if a winner will emerge. There are so many underlying conditions to examine, and the layers may come undone with time. How will these policies, sanctions, economic war, and critical countermeasures affect different aspects of life? Hit that subscribe button and we'll let you know in future videos.